Just as the cryptocurrency markets start to heat back up, SEC Chairman Gary Gensler has emerged to remind us all that most cryptocurrencies are wildly speculative investments that don't comply with U.S. securities regulations, and most cryptocurrency projects are doomed to fail. Therefore, according to SEC Chair Gary Gensler, we should be very cautious with crypto and avoid the FOMO. In contrast to other politicians that simply complain about crypto without getting anything done, SEC Chair Gensler not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. And this week's warning to avoid crypto coincided with crypto lender Gemining being charged with offering an unregistered securities product. If this sounds interesting, then you'll definitely want to watch today's video, in which we take a journey through the next chapter of the chronicles of the crusading SEC chair Gary the Gallant and his quest to protect us all from unregistered crypto. Hey everyone, and welcome back. This is the Part-Time Economist, and in today's video, we are talking all about cryptocurrency, SEC Chair Gary Gensler, securities, investing, a whole lot of super interesting topics, but I want to be very clear. This is not a financial advice video. I'm not saying crypto is going to go up, that it's going to go down. I'm simply trying to explain a recent event in the cryptocurrency world. And one thing that I will say is it does take me a little bit of time to prepare these videos, record and edit. So if you find the video useful, could you just do me a favor and like it, comment, subscribe, or even share it with a friend who you think might be interested, because that stuff really does help my channel. With that being said, let's jump right into it. In this week's video, we are talking about the SEC, which, for those of you who may not know, is the Securities and Exchange Commission. This is a federal organization in the United States that is basically in charge of overseeing any kind of investments. And that's a little bit of a simplification. If you come from, Series 7 land or something like that, you'll know that the SEC doesn't regulate everything and there's caveats, but for the average person, think of the SEC as essentially the regulator of investments. Their job is to make sure that things are fair, that they are transparent, that average people aren't getting taken advantage of. And as part of that, they will occasionally do outreach efforts, interviews, and this week, SEC Chair Gary Gensler and Commissioner Crenshaw, one of his colleagues, were doing an interview on Twitter for the Armed Forces of the United States. So overall, I did listen to a little bit of it. It seemed like pretty good general advice, just basic stuff, telling the soldiers not to, speculate wildly, to kind of save up slow and steady, the importance of saving early, right? Just good, solid, general financial advice. But there was about a 2-minute section where they did specifically talk about cryptocurrency, which is what we're focusing on in today's video. So during this interview, Chair Gensler basically said that crypto is unregulated. He said that it should be regulated. He said that it's the Wild West. And specifically what I found interesting is he said that the vast majority of cryptocurrency projects will fail, and again, this was specifically kind of for soldiers, for troops, that these soldiers and troops should be very cautious about investing in cryptocurrency. So is there any merit to this? Should we listen to him? That's kind of what I want to get into. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of politicians that don't like cryptocurrencies, right? We know this. But a lot of those politicians have limited power, right? If we talk about the Senate, there's 100 senators. Each individual senator on their own, they can't really do a whole lot, right? They can submit a bill, they can vote on it, but they've got to get all these other senators to agree with them. If we're talking about the House of Representatives, where there's I think 435 representatives, again, each representative, yes, they have an important job to do, they're essential for democracy, all this stuff, but each individual one of them doesn't have a whole lot of power to just unilaterally make something happen. On the flip side, SEC Chair Gary Gensler does have a lot of power, specifically when it is confined to his scope of investments. So, when Gary Gensler, who is in charge of overseeing all these investments, says, hey, these investments aren't complying with the law. These investments are speculative. These investments are something that you should watch out for. It's not just a random politician saying this. It's a politician that has the power to essentially destroy any of these investments. And if you don't believe that, just look at what happened to Libri, the LBC coin, right? As soon as it was announced that it was going to be facing an SEC lawsuit, the price completely plummeted, right? Even before the decision of the case was made. So I kind of want you to think about that, right? It's like essentially the person that's in charge of regulating these things and what is legitimate is telling you, hey, most of these aren't legitimate and they're going to fail. So in my opinion, his words carry a little bit more weight than some random senator that says Bitcoin is good, or some mayor, right, that says we're going to build a Bitcoin city, right? I would tend to look towards what the person that regulates all of these things is saying. So that's kind of the overview of what was said in the Twitter interview, but it also coincided with the announcement that Gemining, which is a cryptocurrency exchange lending platform, that they are getting charged with offering an unregulated security. And the interesting thing about this is that they weren't even launching their own crypto, right? We know Gary likes to go after cryptocurrencies and say, well, this crypto that was launched as part of an ICO, it's an unregistered security, right? And most people get that. They say, okay, it is a token that was created with the expectation of profit, and we'll get into why that matters in a minute. But they understand that, right? Something was created, a token, a crypto, whatever. The interesting thing about Gemining is they weren't really even doing that. What they were doing is you would give them your crypto, right? Maybe it was a stable coin, maybe it was a crypto. They had the earn program, and they would lend that out on your behalf. Once they collected the profit, they would take their admin fee, and then they would pass along the remainder of those profits to you. And essentially, what the SEC is saying is that even though they didn't create something specifically, that function that they had going on was essentially a security. And I know a lot of people give Gary a hard time saying he's just kind of, trying to ban crypto, right? Regulation through enforcement, I think, is the term sometimes I hear. But in reality, Gary and the SEC as a whole are applying something that is known as the Howey test. Now, the Howey test goes way back, way before cryptocurrency was even thought of, right? And essentially what this test does is it helps regulators to determine what is a security and what is not. So there's 4 key components of this Howey test. The first is there has to be some kind of an investment of money for something to be a security. If someone comes along and they say, hey, here's this ticket, someday it's going to be worth $1 million, right? And it's just a voucher or something that they give me for free. I'm not putting up any of my own money for that, right? I'm not investing money. So if it turns out that that voucher they gave me is completely worthless, I'm not really any worse off, right? So when we look at the Howey test, when we look at the SEC, we have to think in the regulator mindset, right? And think about the regulator mindset of, I'm trying to think the right way to say this. When these regulators go through all their training, they are essentially taught that most investors are unsophisticated. That doesn't mean they're stupid. It doesn't mean they're bad. It doesn't mean they're dumb, but they are unsophisticated investors. Therefore, these regulations are necessary to protect them. So that's kind of the mindset that these regulators have. So keep that in mind as we're going through this, right? If you're a regulator and someone gives your client something and the client doesn't pay anything, well, the client isn't any worse off, right? So number 1, for something to be a security, there has to be an investment of money. Number 2, in a common enterprise, right? So a common enterprise, and again, this is defined differently by various courts, but essentially think of it, people working together, right? If I invest my own money into some building materials to put a new shed on my property and it's just me doing it, well, I'm working for myself, right? The idea here is that I know the risks. I'm the one that's in charge of it, right? I'm doing all these things. A reasonable expectation of profit. Now, here's the key thing. If I give money to my local church or a charity or a donation, right? There's no expectation of profit. So again, think of this from the regulator mindset. the regulator is saying, hey, people have the free choice to do what they want with their own money. If someone is giving away money, they know that they're not going to get it back. So they're not getting taken advantage of, right? The regulator, they want to regulate things where there's an expectation of profit. So if I tell you, give me 5 Bitcoin, I'll give you 10 Bitcoin back, right? Okay, now you have an expectation of profit. You're expecting to get something out of that, right? So that's where the regulators come into play, and then derived from the efforts of others. Again, if I invest money into a common enterprise and I expect to profit, but again, I'm the one kind of managing this, or not even me as the sole manager, but I have a significant stake in how this develops, right? If I can kind of control the destiny of this, then I'm not just this helpless individual that's hoping some CEO makes a profit for me, right? So essentially, taken together, what the Howey test is doing is it's saying, okay, is someone putting their own money at risk? If there's no money at risk, we don't care, right? Is it expecting profit, right? Again, if they don't expect to get anything out of it and they know they're going to lose their money, again, we don't care because they're free to make that choice to donate. And then also, is that profit expectation coming from the efforts of others? Again, if you want to set out on your own business, you want to do your own thing, you're assuming that risk, you are kind of charting your own course. Again, it's a free country. You are fully enabled to take that risk, right? But if you're trusting someone else to make that happen for you, that's when the SEC comes in and says, okay, there's a disparity of power here. We want to make sure that things are fair. So kind of a long-winded explanation, but when the SEC looks at these cryptocurrencies, that's what's going through their mind. So you might have heard that some things such as Bitcoin have been classified as a commodity, and that's because they fail at least one portion of the Howey test. So if you purchase Bitcoin, yes, you are investing money. You hope to make a profit, but typically the efforts of others, right? So Bitcoin doesn't really have a promoter. It doesn't really have a salesman, right? It's this decentralized network, right? Now contrast that with something like LBC, right, which has been deemed a security. Essentially, all of these ICOs, right, initial coin offerings, the company will come out and they're going to say, we're creating 100 part-time economist coins. And if you buy this coin, then what I'll do is I'll take that money from the coin sale, I will build up this awesome YouTube channel, and you can use the part-time economist coin to run ads and you'll get money. And even if you don't want to run ads, other people will be running ads, so the value of your part-time economist coin will go up, right? That is where it becomes a security, because again, you're investing money into a common enterprise, you're expecting to make a profit, and that profit is depending on the efforts of someone else, right? And again, you can see here that these aren't exactly clear-cut definitions. They were created a long time ago, so there is going to be a little bit of uncertainty, right? The general consensus of SEC Chair Gensler is that the vast majority of cryptocurrencies are currently securities. Yes, there are some that are not, but again, think about this from the regulator mindset. He's telling you, and he's the one in charge of these things, the vast majority of them are unregistered securities that are not compliant with US law. So take that for what you will in terms of kind of extrapolating the bull market, the bear market, whatever you want to think. That's kind of the official position of the person in charge of regulating these. And one thing that I did want to point out that I found very interesting was Commissioner Crenshaw, because what she said is that what's on the blockchain is transparent, but what is off the blockchain isn't. And I think this is something that we really overlook in crypto, because we see FTX, we see a lot of these ICOs, right? And it's very true. Transactions on the blockchain are indeed public record. But if the company is promising something in their white paper, right, that's just a white paper. That's a PDF document that they've written. If they are giving a balance sheet, right, again, that's just something that they can create in Excel. So I think, and I give points here to Commissioner Crenshaw on this, because what she's saying is, and I'm kind of extrapolating here, we have this idea of crypto being something that is publicly viewable on a decentralized ledger, and therefore we don't need to verify as much, right? It's transparent, it's trustworthy, and people take advantage of that. They will just kind of come up with this crypto idea and give a promise, and people are saying, oh, it's crypto, it's transparent, it's trustworthy, when in reality, the only thing that we can see is blockchain transactions. We don't know what's on their balance sheet. We don't know what's in their bank account. So I thought that was a good point by Commissioner Crenshaw. Don't want to get too much into it. Just kind of want to wrap up here. And the main takeaway from this video is SEC Chair Gary Gensler once again lays down the ban hammer on cryptocurrency, charges a Gemini with this unregistered securities offering, not just for launching a crypto, but specifically for this lending facility. And then also, of course, keeping in mind his words here, right? The vast majority of cryptocurrencies are unregulated securities coming from the mouth of the person that is in charge of regulating them. And we can say, government can't stop the blockchain. Government can't stop Bitcoin. True, but they can make life very uncomfortable for people that are using it. They can sue cryptocurrencies, causing the price to go to almost zero, making them, sure, maybe they exist, but they're completely worthless now. So just, and again, this isn't telling you what to do. This isn't an investment advice video, but if you're someone that's into crypto, I think it pays dividends to keep up to date with what these politicians, what these regulators are saying. Hopefully we get some clarity in the future regarding these regulations. But I want to be very clear. When we say clarity in regulation, it doesn't necessarily mean that that regulation is going to be favorable to what we want, right? So as always, this video is not financial advice, just kind of sharing some information. I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you next time.